Winter in Iowa has a peculiar way of magnifying the silence. The snow, thick and relentless, blankets everything, absorbing sounds and turning the world ghostly. That December was particularly harsh, the kind where the chill seeps into your bones, threatening to never leave. I was a senior in high school, teetering on the edge of adulthood yet clinging to the remnants of youth. My best friend Colton and I were typical teenagers, seeking thrills in the mundane, pushing boundaries just to see how far they'd bend before they broke. That night, with my mother out and the house to ourselves, the boundaries were begging to be tested. Our refuge was the family's walkout basement, a cozy, dim-lit cavern where we'd spend hours gaming and joking around. It was our usual spot, equipped with comfortable couches and an old TV that had seen better days. The cold was a distant thought, insulated as we were in our subterranean hideaway. That evening began like any other, with the promise of mindless fun as we prepped our gaming station. However, boredom was knocking, insistent and irritating. That's when our eyes fell on the wine rack. It wasn't our first brush with the family's alcohol stash, but there was always a thrill in the forbidden, a sweet taste to the risk. We should live a little, don't you think? I suggested, already reaching for a dusty bottle. Colton, with his usual grin, was quick to agree. It's just wine, right? What's the worst that could happen? Famous last words, I suppose. As I fiddled with the cork, the unmistakable sound of the garage door cutting through the night's silence froze us both. The door slammed shut with a definitive thud, heavy footsteps following. Panic replaced our earlier excitement. "Oh shit," I muttered, scrambling to hide the evidence. "I thought your mom was out all night," Colton whispered, his voice barely concealing his nerves. "She was supposed to be," I replied, heart pounding as I shoved the bottle behind a cushion. The footsteps continued, each echo a drumbeat to my rising dread. Then, a voice, unmistakably my mother's, or so I thought. "Mio Sandboo? Anyone home?" "Yes, just in the basement," I called back, trying to sound casual. The footsteps moved from the garage toward the staircase. "Can you come help me with something? I need you up here," she yelled. "Yeah, give me a minute," I replied, stalling, my mind racing for plausible excuses. Silence fell for a moment, too long, too heavy. "Anyone down there with you?" The voice called again, and something about it sent a shiver down my spine. It was her voice, but not quite. There was an edge to it, something hollow and unnerving. "Just Colton," I called back, trying to shake the unease settling over me. After finding a decent hiding spot for the wine, I took a deep breath and headed towards the staircase, the chill from the upper floors greeting me like a cold slap. The house felt different as I ascended, the air thick, as if charged with static. The usual homey feel was replaced by an oppressive, suffocating atmosphere. Reaching the top, the darkness was absolute. The kitchen, usually lit by the soft glow of nightlights, was engulfed in shadows. "Mom? Where are you?" No response, just the overwhelming, crushing silence. Panic clawed at my chest, a visceral, primal thing. I knew then, without a doubt, that my mother wasn't home. The voice, the footsteps, they belonged to something else, something not quite right. I turned, heart racing, and sprinted back to the basement. "We need to get out of here," I gasped, grabbing my coat. "What's wrong?" "You were just talking to her." Colton's confusion was palpable. "There's no one home," I said, my voice urgent. "We need to leave. Now." But then, the sight of my dog, trembling on the couch, and my cat, growling lowly from its hiding spot, stopped me. I couldn't leave them, my instincts screamed that it would be a mistake. "No, we can't go. Something's off." I need to call my mom. Pulling out my phone, I dialed her number, each ring echoing like a lifeline. When she answered, relief momentarily washed over me. Mio-san, boo? What's going on? Mom, were you just home? I heard you, but when I went upstairs, you weren't there. There was a pause, a breath held in suspense. No, I just left the bar. I wasn't feeling well. Are you okay? What do you mean you heard me? As I relayed the events, the gravity of the situation began to sink in. My mother's voice, laced with concern, urged me to stay put until she got home. Colton and I huddled in the basement, the animals close, as we waited. The air above seemed to pulse, a pressure like a moving black hole, roaming from room to room. It felt alive, predatory, and insatiably hungry. We waited in the heavy silence, the fear palpable, until finally, the atmosphere shifted. My mother's arrival seemed to dispel the presence, driving it away as quickly as it had come. But the questions remained, haunting us. What had been in our home that night? What had mimicked my mother's voice so eerily? And was it truly gone? As we sat in the aftermath, the shadows of the basement no longer felt safe. They were a reminder that some things, once stirred, are never quite the same again. The night following the encounter, sleep was an elusive friend. Every creak and whisper of the house seemed amplified, each one a potential herald of that inexplicable presence. The experience had shattered the illusion of safety that had always surrounded my home. Now, every shadow seemed to twitch with hidden intent, every silence pregnant with anticipation. Colton and I had decided to stay the night together, neither of us eager to be alone after what had happened. We camped out in the living room, the familiar video games and snacks arrayed around us, a feeble attempt to restore some normalcy. But the gaming console lay forgotten as we mulled over the events, our conversations circling around the same unnerving questions. Could it have been some sort of prank? Colton suggested at one point, though his tone lacked conviction. I shook my head, the image of my terrified pet still vivid in my mind. No way. You heard the voice. It knew my name, Colton. It mimicked my mom perfectly until it didn't. And the atmosphere, that wasn't normal. It was like something out of a horror movie. We were interrupted by my mother coming down the stairs, a worried frown creasing her forehead. Since returning home the previous night, she had been unusually quiet, her usual bubbly demeanor dampened by concern. You boys all right? Didn't get much sleep, I guess? We're okay, I lied, offering a weak smile. Just a bit shaken up. She nodded, sitting down beside us. I called the police this morning, just to report what happened. They said they'll patrol the area tonight, keep an eye out. But they also said it might have been a case of the house settling, or maybe even auditory hallucinations due to stress or fatigue. Auditory hallucinations. The words hung in the air, absurd yet terrifying. Was it possible that stress had conjured up such vivid, shared hallucinations? But we both heard it, Mom, I protested softly. And the animals reacted too. It wasn't just in our heads. She sighed, her hand reaching out to squeeze mine. I know, honey. I believe you. Something strange happened here last night. Let's just try to stay calm and keep an eye out for anything unusual. Maybe it was just a one-time thing. I wished I could share her optimism. The next few days passed in a blur of paranoia and hushed conversations. I found myself jumping at every sound, eyes constantly darting to corners and shadows, half expecting to see something lurking there. But nothing happened. No voices, no unexplainable noises, no oppressive atmospheres. Just the deep, engulfing winter silence. It was during one of these silent evenings, a week after the incident, that I decided to do some research. If the police weren't going to take it seriously, then I would find answers myself. Sitting in my room, I opened my laptop and started typing into the search bar, phantom voices, house-mimicking sounds, unexplained presences. The results were a mixed bag of paranormal forums, scientific articles on auditory phenomena, and a few chilling accounts from people who had experienced similar events. None of it was particularly reassuring. The more I read, the more I realized that our experience wasn't unique, but it was certainly rare and poorly understood. Then, a forum post caught my eye. It was from someone who had experienced something eerily similar, a presence in their home that mimicked loved ones. The person described feeling a predatory energy, much like what Colton and I had felt. They talked about a ritual, something ancient and almost forgotten, meant to cleanse a home of malevolent presences. Curiosity piqued, I jotted down the details of the ritual. It required a few simple items, salt, sage, and a clear, strong intention to cleanse the space. It sounded like superstition, but what did we have to lose? Thinking of trying something, I texted Colton. Found a cleansing ritual online. Might be bullshit, but I'd feel better trying something rather than just waiting for whatever it was to come back. Sounds like a plan, he replied almost immediately. Let me know when and I'll come over. Can't let you have all the spooky fun. The following night, with my mother's reluctant permission, we prepared for the ritual. She didn't believe in supernatural solutions, but the fear in her eyes told me she was willing to try anything if it meant restoring peace to our home. As dusk settled, casting long shadows across the room, Colton and I gathered in the living room. We placed bowls of salt in each corner of the house, the grains shimmering slightly in the dim light. Then, with the sage smudging stick in hand, we moved from room to room, the smoke curling into the air, filling the space with its pungent, cleansing aroma. Let this home be cleansed of all negative energies, I intoned, trying to sound confident. Let no malevolent spirit dwell within these walls. We claimed the space for peace and light. We finished the ritual in the basement, the site of our initial encounter. As the last of the sage burned out, we stood in silence, listening. The house felt different, lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted. But as we ascended the stairs, a cold draft swept through the house, extinguishing the candles one by one. The darkness seemed to press in on us, tangible and heavy. And then, from somewhere deep within the house, a laugh echoed, low and mocking. It was a sound that chilled the blood, a clear, undeniable sign that whatever we had tried to banish was not only still here, it was amused. The mocking laughter echoed through the corridors of our home, a sinister reminder that our efforts had not only failed but perhaps even provoked whatever resided with us. The candles flickered out one by one, as if snuffed by an unseen breath, and the darkness seemed to grow denser, more aggressive. Colton and I stood frozen on the stairs, our hearts pounding in our chests, the cold draft swirling around us like a malevolent spirit. That didn't sound good, Colton muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. No, it didn't, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. We rushed to relight the candles, their dim glow providing little comfort against the enveloping darkness. The house felt alive, aware, and distinctly unfriendly. We retreated to the living room, where my mother was waiting, anxiety etched deeply into her features. I heard it too, she said as we entered. That laugh. It was all over the house. What are we going to do? We need to find out what we're dealing with, I said, more to convince myself than out of any real confidence. There has to be someone who knows more about this kind of thing. A professional. The decision was made to seek help outside the uncertain realm of internet forums and dubious rituals. The next morning, after a night spent huddled together in the living room, jumping at every small sound, I started looking for experts in paranormal phenomena. It wasn't long before I found a local group known as the Midnight Watchers, a team of paranormal investigators who had dealt with similar cases. I sent them an email, detailing everything from the initial encounter to the failed cleansing ritual. To my surprise, they responded within hours, expressing a keen interest in our case. They agreed to visit our house the following evening to conduct an initial assessment. The anticipation of their arrival was both a relief and a new source of anxiety. The day dragged on, each hour punctuated by strange occurrences, whispers just beyond the edge of hearing, fleeting shadows that seemed to vanish when looked at directly, and an oppressive feeling of being watched. As dusk approached, the Midnight Watchers arrived, a trio of individuals who seemed as normal as anyone could be under the circumstances. There was Helen, the leader, a woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper intellect, Jake, a tech specialist who carried an array of gadgets and sensors, and Mia, a medium who claimed to be sensitive to spiritual energies. They set up their equipment with efficient precision, placing cameras and sensors in various locations around the house. Helen briefed us on the process. "We'll monitor the house for any unusual activity tonight," she explained. "Mia will also attempt to make contact with the presence to understand its intentions." The investigation began with Mia walking through the house, her eyes closed and her hands extended as if feeling her way through the thick air. We watched on monitors set up in the living room, the cameras feeding live footage of her progress. In the basement, Mia paused, her body tensing. "There's something here," she murmured, her voice barely audible through the microphone. "It's angry. Confused. But there's more than just anger. There's pain." The temperature in the room dropped suddenly, a cold that seeped into our bones. On the screen, we could see Mia shudder, wrapping her arms around herself. "It doesn't want you here," she said, her voice quivering. "It's tied to this place, but it's trapped, not by its choice. It wants to be heard, but it's lost in its own darkness." "What does it want?" Helen's voice was calm, grounding. "It wants to be free," Mia replied. "But it's bound by something old, something done to this house long before you came here." The session ended with more questions than answers. Mia was visibly shaken, and the atmosphere in the house had grown even heavier, the air thick with the echo of the entity's pain and rage. After the team packed up their equipment, Helen turned to us. "We need to do more research," she said. "There's history here that's affecting the present. We'll be back tomorrow night with more resources. For tonight, it might be best if you stayed elsewhere." Leaving the house felt like both a betrayal and a relief. We spent the night at a nearby hotel, the impersonal room a stark contrast to the charged environment of our home. As I lay in the hotel bed, the entity's desires replayed in my mind. It was trapped, hurt, and angry. What had happened in our home to create such a lingering, tormented presence? And what would it take to free it in us from this nightmare? The questions swirled in the darkness as sleep finally claimed me, a restless sleep filled with whispers and shadows that lingered just on the edge of consciousness. The following day was a blur of restless anticipation. Colton and I returned to the house, the atmosphere still heavy with the lingering presence. We spent the day researching the history of the house, searching for any clues that might explain the entity's origins. As evening approached, the Midnight Watchers returned, armed with more equipment and a determination to unravel the mystery. Helen explained their plan. They would conduct a thorough investigation of the house, focusing on areas where Mia had sensed the entity's presence the strongest. Meanwhile, Colton and I would continue our research, digging deeper into the house's past. The investigation began, with Jake monitoring the cameras and sensors while Helen and Mia explored the house, seeking out any signs of paranormal activity. Colton and I retreated to the study, where we pored over old records and documents, searching for any mention of the house's past. It was during this search that we stumbled upon a newspaper article from the early 1900s. The headline sent chills down my spine: "Tragedy strikes local family, murder-suicide in quiet suburb." The article detailed a horrific event that had occurred in our very house over a century ago. According to the article, a man had murdered his wife and children before taking his own life. The house had stood empty for years afterward, rumored to be haunted by the spirits of the victims. The story had been mostly forgotten, buried in the annals of history, until now. Armed with this new information, we rushed to share our discovery with Helen and the others. They were intrigued by the revelation, and Mia insisted on conducting a séance to try and make contact with the spirits of the victims. That night, we gathered in the living room, the lights dimmed, and the air thick with anticipation. Mia sat at the center, her hands resting on a wooden board with letters and numbers. She closed her eyes, her breathing slow and steady, as she began to speak in a soft, almost trance-like voice. "Is there anyone here with us?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. For a moment, there was only silence. And then, a faint, almost imperceptible movement of the planchette under Mia's fingertips. It spelled out a word: help. Mia's eyes flew open, her gaze unfocused. "They're here," she said, her voice distant. "The spirits of the victims. They're trapped, unable to move on." We spent hours communicating with the spirits, piecing together the events that had led to the tragedy. The man had been consumed by jealousy and rage, convinced that his family was conspiring against him. He had killed them in a fit of madness before taking his own life, leaving their spirits trapped in the house, unable to find peace. As the séance ended, Mia looked visibly drained. "We need to help them," she said, her voice trembling. "We need to find a way to release their spirits, to allow them to move on." Helen agreed, and together we formulated a plan. Using the information we had gathered, we conducted a ritual to cleanse the house of the lingering negative energy, focusing on the areas where the spirits had been most active. As we performed the ritual, a sense of calm descended over the house, the oppressive atmosphere lifting like a fog. And then, in a moment that sent shivers down my spine, a faint, ethereal light appeared in the center of the room, slowly taking shape. It was the spirits of the victims, their forms translucent and flickering, but unmistakably there. They looked at us with eyes filled with gratitude, their presence a bittersweet reminder of the tragedy that had befallen them. And then, with a gentle glow, they faded away, leaving behind a sense of peace and closure that had been absent for so long. As we stood in the now silent room, a weight lifted from our shoulders, replaced by a profound sense of relief. The house was finally at peace, the spirits of its tragic past finally free to move on. As the spirits faded away, leaving behind a sense of peace and closure, we stood in the now silent room, the weight lifted from our shoulders. The air seemed lighter, the atmosphere no longer tinged with the lingering presence of the tragic past. It was as if a heavy burden had been lifted from our home, allowing us to breathe freely for the first time in weeks. Colton and I exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement of the profound experience we had just witnessed. My mother, who had been watching from the sidelines, stepped forward, her eyes filled with tears. "They're finally at peace," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Helen and the Midnight Watchers shared a moment of quiet reflection before Helen spoke up. "We should probably pack up our equipment," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "There's nothing more for us to do here." As we helped them gather their gear, Mia approached me, her expression serious. "You have a gift," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. "You were able to connect with the spirits in a way that few can. It's a rare talent, one that you should nurture and develop." I was taken aback by her words, unsure of how to respond. I don't know what to say," I stammered, my mind still reeling from the experience. Mia smiled gently. "Just remember, the spirits are always around us, waiting to be heard. You have the ability to listen to them, to help them find peace. It's a gift, but also a responsibility. With that, she rejoined the group, leaving me to ponder her words. Could it be true? Did I really possess the ability to communicate with spirits? It was a thought both thrilling and terrifying, opening up a world of possibilities and dangers I had never considered. As the midnight watchers prepared to leave, Helen approached me, a thoughtful expression on her face. "You handled yourself well tonight," she said, her voice sincere. "You have a strong connection to the spiritual world, whether you realize it or not. If you ever need guidance or help, don't hesitate to reach out." I thanked her, feeling a newfound sense of purpose and curiosity stirring within me. What other mysteries lay hidden in the world, waiting to be uncovered? And what role would I play in unraveling them? With a final farewell, the midnight watchers departed, leaving behind a sense of peace and closure that had been sorely lacking. As we watched their car disappear into the night, I knew that our lives had been forever changed by the events of that evening. In the days that followed, the house seemed different, as if it had shed its haunted past and embraced a new, brighter future. The whispers and shadows that had once plagued us were gone, replaced by a sense of tranquility and calm. Colton and I resumed our lives, forever changed by the experience. We never spoke of it to anyone else, knowing that few would believe the extraordinary events that had unfolded in our home. But deep down, we knew the truth, and that was enough. As for me, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a journey into the unknown, a path that would lead me to discover more about the world beyond our own. And as I gazed out at the stars that night, I knew that I was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that the spirits were always watching, always waiting to be heard. In the days that followed the departure of the midnight watchers, our lives settled into a new normalcy. The house seemed lighter, the air less oppressive, as if the cleansing ritual had not only banished the spirits of the past but also lifted a weight from our shoulders. Colton and I returned to our routines, but the experience had left its mark on us, a lingering reminder of the supernatural forces that lurked in the shadows. I found myself drawn to the study of the paranormal, devouring books and articles on ghosts, spirits, and otherworldly phenomena. Mia's words echoed in my mind, urging me to explore my gift, to listen to the whispers of the spirits. I wasn't sure what to make of it all, but there was a part of me that longed to delve deeper, to uncover the mysteries that lay beyond the veil of the mundane. Colton, on the other hand, seemed eager to put the experience behind him, to return to a life untouched by the supernatural. He threw himself into his work, spending long hours at the office and avoiding any mention of the events that had transpired. It was as if he had closed a door in his mind, sealing away the memories of that fateful night. My mother, too, seemed changed by the experience. She became more introspective, spending hours in quiet contemplation. I could see the shadows of the past lingering in her eyes, a haunted look that spoke of the horrors she had witnessed. But she remained steadfast, a pillar of strength and support in the face of uncertainty. As the weeks turned into months, life returned to a semblance of normalcy. The whispers and shadows that had once haunted us faded into distant memories, relegated to the realm of the unexplainable. But the experience had left its mark on us, a reminder that there are forces in this world that defy explanation, that challenge our understanding of reality. One evening, as I sat alone in the study, poring over yet another book on the paranormal, a thought occurred to me. What if the spirits were not the only ones trying to communicate with us? What if there were other forces at work, unseen and unheard, waiting to make themselves known? The thought sent a shiver down my spine, but it also ignited a spark of curiosity within me. I knew then that my journey into the world of the supernatural was far from over, that there were still mysteries waiting to be uncovered, secrets waiting to be revealed. As I closed the book and extinguished the light, I felt a sense of anticipation, a thrill of excitement at the prospect of what lay ahead. The shadows of the past may have receded, but they had left behind a trail of breadcrumbs, leading me ever deeper into the unknown. And so, as I drifted off to sleep, I knew that the whispers of the spirits would continue to echo in my dreams, guiding me, beckoning me to follow them into the darkness. As life settled back into a semblance of normalcy, the events of that fateful night continued to linger in the back of my mind, like a shadow that refused to fade. I found myself drawn to the study of the supernatural, spending countless hours scouring books and websites for any clue that might shed light on the mysteries that surrounded us. Colton, on the other hand, seemed determined to put the experience behind him. He threw himself into his work, his days filled with meetings and deadlines, his evenings spent at the gym or with friends. It was as if he was trying to outrun the memories, to escape the specter of the past that loomed over us. My mother, too, seemed changed by the experience. She became more introspective, spending hours in quiet contemplation in the garden or by the fireplace. I could see the toll it had taken on her, the weight of the past pressing down on her shoulders. But she remained strong, a beacon of resilience in the face of adversity. As the weeks turned into months, the events of that night began to fade into the background, overshadowed by the demands of daily life. But they were never far from my thoughts, a constant reminder of the fragility of our existence, of the thin veil that separated the world of the living from the world of the dead. One evening, as I sat in the study, surrounded by books and papers, a strange feeling washed over me. It was as if the room had suddenly grown colder, the air thick with an unspoken presence. I looked around, half expecting to see a shadow lurking in the corners, but there was nothing there. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone. That there were other forces at work, unseen and unheard, waiting to make themselves known. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, but it also filled me with a sense of wonder, of curiosity about the world beyond our own. I began to delve deeper into my research, exploring ancient legends and folklore, searching for clues that might explain the strange occurrences that had plagued us. I learned about ley lines and energy vortexes, about spirits and demons, about a world that existed parallel to our own, hidden from view but ever present. One night, as I sat at my desk, poring over an old manuscript, a voice spoke to me. It was soft and gentle, like a whisper carried on the wind. "Seek and you shall find," it said, its words echoing in the silence of the room. I looked around, but there was no one there. The voice had seemed to come from nowhere, yet it was so real, so distinct. It filled me with a sense of purpose, of destiny, as if I was being called to a greater understanding of the world around me. From that moment on, I knew that my journey into the world of the supernatural was far from over. There were still mysteries waiting to be unraveled, secrets waiting to be revealed. And I was determined to uncover them, to delve deeper into the shadows and discover the truth that lay hidden within. As I closed the manuscript and extinguished the light, I felt a sense of excitement, of anticipation for the adventures that lay ahead. The world was full of wonders, full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. And I was ready to explore them all, armed with nothing but my curiosity and a burning desire for the truth. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I knew that the whispers of the spirits would continue to guide me, leading me ever deeper into the darkness, ever closer to the truth that lay hidden in the shadows. As the days turned into weeks, my fascination with the supernatural only grew stronger. I spent every spare moment immersed in my research, seeking out ancient texts and obscure legends that might hold the key to understanding the mysteries that surrounded us. Colton watched from a distance, his skepticism evident, but he said nothing, allowing me to pursue my newfound obsession in peace. One evening, as I sat in the study, poring over a particularly intriguing manuscript, I heard a soft knocking at the door. I frowned, puzzled, as I wasn't expecting anyone. I rose from my chair and made my way to the door, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a woman in her 40s, her hair streaked with silver and her eyes bright with curiosity. "I'm sorry to disturb you," she said, her voice warm and inviting. "My name is Dr. Elizabeth Blackwood, and I'm a professor of folklore and mythology at the university. I heard about your interest in the supernatural, and I was wondering if I could speak with you." I was taken aback by her sudden appearance, but I invited her in, intrigued by what she had to say. As we sat in the study, she explained that she had heard about the events that had transpired in our home and was fascinated by the connection between the supernatural and the human experience. Dr. Blackwood shared with me her own research into the folklore of our region, recounting tales of spirits and monsters that had been passed down through generations. She spoke of ancient rituals and forgotten deities, of a world that existed alongside our own, hidden from view but ever present. As she spoke, I felt a sense of kinship with her, a shared passion for the unknown and the unexplained. She was like a kindred spirit, someone who understood the pull of the supernatural, the allure of the mysteries that lay beyond our understanding. Over the following weeks, Dr. Blackwood became a frequent visitor to our home, sharing her knowledge and expertise with me. Together, we delved deeper into the world of the supernatural, exploring ancient texts and artifacts that shed light on the mysteries of our past. One evening, as we sat in the study, surrounded by books and papers, Dr. Blackwood shared with me a legend that sent shivers down my spine. It was a tale of a lost civilization that had worshipped a powerful deity known as the Shadow King, a being of immense power and malevolence. According to the legend, the Shadow King had been banished to the depths of the earth by a group of brave warriors, but his spirit had remained, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the day when he could return and reclaim his throne. As Dr. Blackwood spoke, I felt a chill in the air, as if the room had grown colder. The legend seemed too fantastical to be true, but there was something in her eyes, a glint of belief, that made me wonder. That night, as I lay in bed, the words of the legend echoing in my mind, I knew that my journey into the world of the supernatural was far from over. There were still mysteries waiting to be unraveled, secrets waiting to be revealed. And I was determined to uncover them, to explore the unknown and discover the truth that lay hidden in the shadows. Dr. Blackwood's visits became a regular occurrence, each one filled with new insights and revelations about the supernatural. She shared with me ancient texts and artifacts that hinted at a world beyond our own, a realm of spirits and demons that existed parallel to our own. One evening, as we sat in the study, Dr. Blackwood shared with me a particularly intriguing legend. It spoke of a doorway to the spirit realm, hidden deep within the earth, where the spirits of the dead could pass into the world of the living. The legend said that this doorway was guarded by a powerful entity, known as the Guardian of the Threshold, who kept watch over the boundary between the two worlds. As Dr. Blackwood spoke, I felt a sense of awe and wonder wash over me. The idea of a hidden doorway to another realm seemed like something out of a fantasy novel, but there was a part of me that believed it could be true. After all, I had witnessed firsthand the existence of spirits and entities that defied explanation. Driven by a newfound sense of purpose, I began to delve deeper into the legend, scouring ancient texts and manuscripts for any clue that might lead me to the location of the hidden doorway. Dr. Blackwood joined me in my quest, her knowledge and expertise proving invaluable in unraveling the mysteries of the past. Together, we uncovered a series of clues that pointed to a remote location deep in the forest, far from prying eyes. It was said that this was where the doorway could be found, hidden beneath the roots of an ancient tree, its entrance guarded by the spirits of those who had passed into the spirit realm. One moonlit night, we set out into the forest, guided by the faint glow of the moon and the whispers of the spirits. As we drew closer to our destination, the air grew thick with anticipation, a sense of foreboding hanging over us like a shroud. Finally, we arrived at the ancient tree, its massive trunk gnarled and twisted with age. Dr. Blackwood produced a small, intricately carved key from her pocket, explaining that it was said to be the key to the hidden doorway. With trembling hands, she inserted the key into a small, inconspicuous knot in the trunk, turning it slowly. There was a soft click, and then, with a groan of ancient wood, a section of the trunk swung open, revealing a dark, narrow passage leading into the earth. We exchanged a nervous glance before stepping through the doorway, the darkness enveloping us like a cloak. As we descended into the depths, the air grew colder, the sounds of the forest fading away until all that remained was the sound of our footsteps echoing off the walls. After what seemed like an eternity, we emerged into a vast, cavernous chamber, illuminated by a faint, otherworldly glow. The air was thick with the scent of earth and decay, and I could feel the presence of the spirits all around us, watching, waiting. In the center of the chamber stood a massive stone altar, its surface carved with intricate symbols and glyphs. Dr. Blackwood approached it, her eyes wide with awe and reverence. She explained that this was where the spirits passed into the spirit realm, their journey guided by the guardian of the threshold. As we stood before the altar, a sense of peace washed over me, a feeling of being in the presence of something ancient and sacred. I knew then that this was the culmination of my journey, the moment I had been searching for. And as I closed my eyes and offered a silent prayer to the spirits, I felt a sense of gratitude wash over me, a deep appreciation for the mysteries of the supernatural and the journey that had led me here. As Dr. Blackwood and I stood before the ancient stone altar, bathed in the faint glow of the chamber, a sense of awe and wonder washed over me. This was the culmination of our journey, the discovery of a hidden doorway to the spirit realm, guarded by the powerful entity known as the guardian of the threshold. Dr. Blackwood studied the carvings on the altar intently, deciphering the ancient symbols and glyphs that covered its surface. She explained that the altar was a portal of sorts, a gateway through which the spirits of the dead could pass into the spirit realm, guided by the guardian. I was filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The idea of crossing over into the spirit realm was both thrilling and terrifying, but there was a part of me that longed to explore the unknown, to uncover the secrets that lay beyond the veil. As we stood before the altar, a faint, otherworldly voice echoed through the chamber. "Who dares to disturb the guardian of the threshold?" it boomed, its tone both menacing and curious. Dr. Blackwood stepped forward, her voice steady. "We seek knowledge and understanding," she replied. "We mean no harm, only to learn from the spirits that dwell beyond." There was a moment of silence, and then, with a sound like rushing wind, a figure materialized before us. It was humanoid in shape, but its features were indistinct, as if shrouded in shadow. It regarded us with glowing, otherworldly eyes, its presence imposing yet strangely comforting. "I am the guardian of the threshold," it said, its voice echoing in the chamber. "I watch over the boundary between the worlds, ensuring that only those who seek wisdom and understanding may pass." Dr. Blackwood and I exchanged a glance, then turned back to the guardian. "We seek to learn from the spirits of the past," I said, my voice steady. "We wish to understand the mysteries of the supernatural, to uncover the truth that lies hidden in the shadows." The guardian regarded us for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well," it said. "But be warned, the spirit realm is a place of wonder and danger. Only those with pure intentions and a strong will may pass through the doorway." With that, the guardian raised its hand, and a faint light began to emanate from the altar. A doorway appeared in the stone, shimmering and translucent, leading into the darkness beyond. Dr. Blackwood and I exchanged a final glance, then stepped forward, crossing the threshold into the unknown. As we passed through the doorway, the world around us faded away, replaced by a swirling maelstrom of colors and shapes. When the chaos subsided, we found ourselves standing in a vast, ethereal realm, bathed in a soft, otherworldly light. Before us stretched a landscape unlike anything I had ever seen, a realm of wonder and mystery, of spirits and entities that defied description. As we stood there, taking in the beauty and majesty of the spirit realm, I knew that our journey was far from over. There were still mysteries waiting to be unraveled, secrets waiting to be revealed. And I was ready to explore them all, to delve deeper into the unknown and discover the truth that lay hidden in the shadows. As Dr. Blackwood and I explored the spirit realm, we encountered a myriad of wondrous sights and beings. We traversed vast, ethereal landscapes, where the very fabric of reality seemed to shift and change around us. We met spirits of ancient warriors, their forms shimmering with a radiant energy. We conversed with wise old souls who had transcended the boundaries of time and space, their words echoing with the wisdom of the ages. Each encounter brought new revelations, new insights into the mysteries of the supernatural. We learned of ancient civilizations that had long since passed into legend, of forgotten deities and creatures that roamed the spirit realm. We discovered that the realm was not static, but ever-changing, shaped by the thoughts and beliefs of those who dwelt within it. As we journeyed deeper into the spirit realm, we encountered darker forces as well. We faced malevolent spirits, twisted and tormented souls who sought to drag us into their shadowy realm. But with Dr. Blackwood's guidance and my newfound understanding of the supernatural, we were able to navigate these dangers and emerge unscathed. Our journey culminated in a meeting with the Spirit Council, a group of ancient beings who presided over the realm. They spoke to us of the balance between the worlds, of the delicate equilibrium that must be maintained to prevent chaos and destruction. They explained that the realm of the living and the realm of the dead were intertwined, each influencing the other in ways both subtle and profound. They spoke of the importance of understanding and respecting the spirits, of honoring the ancient traditions and rituals that had kept the balance for millennia. As we prepared to leave the spirit realm and return to our own world, the Spirit Council imparted one final piece of wisdom. They told us that the journey into the unknown was never truly over, that there would always be new mysteries to uncover, new truths to discover. And so, as Dr. Blackwood and I crossed back through the threshold and emerged into our world once more, we knew that our journey was far from over. Armed with the knowledge and understanding we had gained, we embarked on a new chapter in our lives, one filled with wonder, adventure, and the endless pursuit of the unknown. As I sat in the study, surrounded by books and artifacts from our journey, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment wash over me. The mysteries of the supernatural would always be a part of my life, guiding me, inspiring me to seek out new adventures and uncover the truths that lay hidden in the shadows.